Welcome to Krassensteins. Today we have a very, very special guest, Dan, the kettlebell loving ex-employee that you see
Kettlebell
everywhere.
Dan. Kettlebell Dan.
I have a
Welcome.
kettlebell to prove it.
You do. There's like I see the kettlebell right there. Do you know what? I have a kettlebell too.
We could do a swing off.
I only use dumbbells.
This
Kettlebells
this
are
is
for
my
weights.
90-pound kettlebell right here that I'm holding with one finger.
You
Yours
did a
yours
video
is only
once.
like 25.
You did a video once, and I thought you guys were incredibly strong, which you probably are, until I realized it was like 2 pounds.
It's 10. It's 10, okay? Don't
Okay.
underestimate. So we want to talk to you a lot about X, like working at X, about kettlebells, about exercise and health, and just your experience under Elon Musk in general. Really looking to get right into it.
Awesome. Yeah, I thought a lot about, what we talk about. Should we stay away from politics?
I don't
Donald
know. What
Trump or Joe
side are you
Biden?
on?
You want to talk about Donald Trump for an hour? Um, yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting ride for me for sure. I was hired by Twitter 1.0, but really a month before the acquisition. And like the two companies it may be obvious to state, but they're very different. There's certainly some good things about Twitter 1.0, but I'm as an electrical and computer engineer, with a finance background, I find the pace of X, and I find the people that I'm working around to be an amazing experience that I've been, gifted the opportunity with.
So you've been there for what, about a year and a half or so?
Correct. Yeah, I guess time flies, but yeah, over a year. I joined back in October.
Okay, cool. So I know Brian, I think, messaged you about this earlier. We actually found out that all three of us went to Rutgers University at the same time. You graduated in 2002 and we graduated in 2004. So our paths may have crossed before X. Do you remember us at Rutgers?
I remember you guys ignoring me on the campus. What's the deal? No, I think it's amazing. We did have 2 years overlap. I was on the Bush campus. If anybody knows Rutgers,
They had
that's
the
where
best dining hall. Bush had the best food.
they did. Now I lived off campus, so I would have to sneak in with one of my buddies to get into the dining hall. But I agree with you, it was the best food. But that's where Coca-Cola built their stadium, which is why they only sell Coke products there, probably still. But that's where the engineering school was. But I did spend time in Livingston.
You had
So
basketball.
actually remember you. You just had kettlebells everywhere you went. You would juggle kettlebells down the hall. You'd have kettlebells at your desk, and it would sometimes flip the desk over. But
So
that's all I remember.
I was juggling then, but I did not. This was Dan pre-kettlebell Dan.
Oh, okay. It must have been a different kettlebell
Interesting.
Dan that I knew then.
Yeah, a weaker, flimsier Dan.
So before we get more into like fitness and all of that, which I think you know a lot about, I think like the biggest question I have, and this is it's kind of interesting because if I'm correct, you started working at X in October of 2022, and then Musk took over at the end of October. So you were actually under Agrawal and Musk. So and you got to see that transition, but you weren't really under the prior regime, if you want to call it that, for very long. So like how did that transition go? And like what did you notice? Was it a positive one? I obviously the media wants to portray it as negative. How do you see it all going?
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting time. I would say it probably helped my transition, unlike people who had been there for years, because I didn't have much in the way of history with Twitter 1.0. So I had never been to the headquarters. I have now subsequently. I was really just getting trained and going through the orientations and the trainings of 1.0. So and it was, I mean, it's interesting even to look back and see like the orientation style versus, what X looks like today, for sure. As a part of the orientation, we got to meet Parag and I got to ask him a question. And my question for him, everyone was giving him softball questions. And my question is, it looks like Elon's going to buy the company. Like, what do you think about that for you, for the future of the company? It seemed like the obvious question, but nobody was asking it.
What was the answer?
He said it was pretty diplomatic, but he said he was very optimistic about the future of Twitter. And it was like cut scene. that was about it. So I think he probably knew he wasn't long for the company at that point. But I thought it was interesting that he still had positive things to say about Twitter. And I think that shows the power of the platform. Yeah, so that was very interesting. It was not much of a transition in that sense. But I can talk a lot about the culture of the company now and maybe give a little bit of a positive spin on it because I see it positively.
Yeah. So like I kind of want to know like where was your mindset? Were you like Elon Musk is coming in, damn it, man, I just got a job with this left-wing company and now this capitalist is going to come in and make my life a living hell? Or were you like, hell yeah, man, Elon Musk is going to be my new boss? Like, where were you in that?
Yeah, I was probably more towards the latter, excited. I actually had a sticky note on my desk that was a quote from Elon before he bought it. And it was, work hard to build your positive future. I'm paraphrasing, but you can see that in his drive. Like he has a vision for what he wants his future to be, what he wants for his children, what he wants for humanity. And he seeks that tirelessly. And that was inspiring to me. Yeah, so I mean, I didn't join Twitter because it was left wing or because of any of the policies they had. I worked for Charles Schwab leading up to that. I was a director there. So I managed a number of people working in finance, had my Series 7. One of my coworkers who I worked for had moved over to Twitter and she kept talking about how great it was to work there. And so I did an interview. I had a good offer and joined. But yeah, it wasn't for politics that I joined. It wasn't for any of that. Again, I'm a computer electrical engineer. I like to build things. I like to do solve hard challenges and work with smart people. And Twitter and now X affords me all those opportunities.
So I read Walter Isaacson's biography on Musk, and one thing that I think followed him through that book was how difficult it was to work for Musk because of the demand and the long hours and just his desire to succeed and having this, just feeling like his employees were held to such a high standard. Do you feel the culture is positive or negative? I'm guessing you're not going to say negative. Obviously, you don't want to lose your job, but like can you tell us about the culture a little bit?
Sure. I mean, your mileage may vary. I'll start with that. I'm not working in engineering. I think I give those guys tremendous credit. They're building and iterating at a very rapid pace, and I don't think that's for everybody. Again, I came from a corporate culture, a Fortune 500 company. It was, how do I say this well? Like a lot of, I wouldn't say it's all fluff, but there's certain, like anybody that's worked in a corporation knows, a lot of what you do isn't necessarily towards the bottom line or building the product. There's layers of, corporate bureaucracy that you're dealing with and navigating. So that's been a refreshing change for me. Elon talks about, you can't talk to departments, you can only talk to people. And that's one of the things that he instills in everybody, that if you have a question for somebody, don't talk to your boss who talks to their boss and go up the chain to go over to another person at that same level who can go down and talk to the person who made that decision or had that requirement built so that I can go back around. And it sounds tiresome even to describe it. And that's definitely been my experience of corporate culture. It's definitely different here at X. So like, if I have an idea, I can go talk to anybody. I can go talk to Elon about it and pitch my idea. It better be a good idea. I better have some good idea, some solid backing for it, and be able to say how it makes money for the company or, advances free speech or, whatever it is that our mission is about. But yeah, like I do like that part of it. I mean, is it intense at times? I think that's by design. I mean, Elon said dense and intense. He wants people working together, solving a mission. I mean, would you think of working for SpaceX and it being a casual environment? Not really. So I think he's kind of brought that feeling and that culture. He brings that to each one of his companies.
That's really cool that you can just go and talk to Elon if you have a really good idea. I think that's amazing. So
I'll give you one maybe concrete example of that. One of my coworkers, Nate McGrady, you guys probably see him on the platform.
Yeah.
He's very interested personally in live streaming. And so he's been testing live streaming himself. He kind of took it upon himself to, hey, we can do this, that, and the other thing to improve live. Like, so the comments and turning them on and enabling Streamlab, integration. Like a lot of that it's not like solely his doing, but he said, I want to get involved in this. That wasn't necessarily his day job. He started working on it and it became a reality. He pitched it to Elon. Elon accepted it. You can see it now, in action. And that's his goal of saying, like, you know, Twitch does this, why can't we do this better? And so if you have an idea, yeah, not only can you do it, but it's happening today.
Yeah, I was just watching one of his live streams, I think like 2 days ago. Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
doing a great job, Nate.
Yeah,
Yeah, I need to get better at it. I'm not very good at live streaming, so he's going to help me with Streamlabs, and I'm going to start that myself.
I really like the live streams. I do think discoverability of them needs to improve somewhat. Like Spaces, I feel like Spaces, discoverability has gotten better, but I feel like with the live streams it's a little more difficult. I think there needs to be like another section just for that. But moving on, you actually work as a senior manager of data and analytics. So what exactly is your job? Do you sit around and shadow ban people and then watch their reactions all day, or is it more in depth than that?
I read through your comments and just hide the ones that I don't like. No, so I do none of those things. I'm not in the department. That's actually one of my catchphrases on Spaces. It's like, that's not my department. I don't shadow ban people. I'm not throttling people's accounts. I'm not, unlocking people's accounts. A lot of what I do is internal support with data analytics. Any company has, complex technology. So I work in data analytics, especially for information technology. So all the infrastructure that supports the people that are building the platform. And information security, InfoSec. So all the things that keep your data safe, that keep the platform safe and ticking. So yeah, I use a number of different tools to analyze the data from disparate systems and provide that, in meaningful visualizations to the people that can make the decisions.
Can you divulge any top secret analytics? And okay, maybe not top secret, but something that you found that you think might be interesting to somebody that's maybe outside of X?
That's a good. I mean, almost by definition, if it's top secret, then I wouldn't disclose it in my with my NDA. Maybe if I think of something, I'll get back to you that I can share. But, I mean, for sure, I'll just say, like, generically, I'm personally obsessed with data. Probably I should have worn the t-shirt, but I have an obsession for R, which is a statistical language that's like Python. And I feel like any company, there's just a treasure trove of data. And for sure, X, Twitter is that, on steroids. So the fact that Grok is being trained on the data, I'm very excited for where that's going to go. I'm a total data.
I imagine like sometimes you're like, oh wow, this data set, this data that I'm looking at right now is just phenomenal, or wow, that's super surprising. So definitely, if you think of something, I'd love to hear it. I think the community would as well.
Also generic maybe, but I deal with data that's, I think, staggering in scale. So like you see, I mean, some of the numbers are shared publicly about just how many impressions there are per day or per second, and that's mind blowing. But I'd say some of the projects that I work on, I get surprised that I continue to learn about countries, and I've traveled around the world a little bit. I continue to learn about countries I never knew even existed because I see it in the data. It's like, oh, there's a spike there in this activity in this country, and why is it doing that? So I find that fascinating.
Well, and the data now with Grok, like it's going to be such an important part of Grok because it sets Grok aside from these other chatbots, right? Like nobody else has access to this immense amount of user data in real time. So like that has to, I can only imagine that has to be really interesting to work with that. And I'm assuming you're working directly with XAI and Grok with data. So it's like the birth of a new chatbot AI.
Yeah, I don't work. So to disappoint you, one, I don't work directly with the XAI guys. Two, I don't have a Grok tattoo yet. If you're willing to pay me, then I'll consider it.
Yeah, on your forehead.
I thought that was the deal.
The
only way you could come onto our video cast was if you had that tattoo. That's what the last guy did, at least.
For $500, right?
Plus $500, yes.
Yeah, what's 500 between friends? Yeah, as far as Grok and X, one thing I'd say, I'm a big sci-fi reader. Elon is as well, and I think, for me, it's like, how can sci-fi shape our present? Elon says a lot like the future should look like the future, and I think that not just for Cybertrucks, but for everything, and for X and the usage of our technology. One book that I think has been an influence on both of us is the Foundation trilogy, or the Foundation series. It's a number of books by Isaac Asimov. I think it's actually a TV series now, though I haven't watched it yet. But
I heard that too. Yeah.
Yeah, you've read it.
I haven't read it, but I've heard about the book, and I know that it's now a series. So definitely
Yeah,
something I would.
I really recommend reading it. It's a great book.
Yeah.
One of the concepts that Asimov developed, and I think it was kind of before his time. I think a lot of the things that he thought about were, a good 50 years ahead of his time. One was psychohistory, he called it. And the universe had expanded far enough that you had the ability to predict, generally speaking, the nature of people's actions, not individually, like it wasn't like Minority Report that I could say, I know Brian's going to commit a crime tomorrow, so like, take away his kettlebell from him. But you could accurately predict like what this planet, the society was going to do. And it sounded, when I read it maybe 15 years ago, it's quaint. It sounded like futuristic, and now it's pretty much coming, right? Like the ability to predict using Grok trained on X data.
If you have enough data, if you have enough of that data, I think you're going to be able to predict so much stuff, and people don't realize that because so many things are based on data. The outcomes are based on data, so I think that's going to be something you're definitely going to be able to predict. Speaking of sci-fi, I just watched that new movie, Leave the World Behind last night, and there's that scene where the Teslas are there and slamming into each other. I think Elon was kind of a little upset about it. I actually thought it was a pretty good movie, and they really couldn't have used other vehicles because it was based on the idea that these self-driving cars, these full self-driving cars, were being attacked from a cyber attack. So there's no other self-driving cars out there, so Teslas are the only ones that could have been used in that. But speaking of Teslas, do you drive a Tesla?
We should probably skip this section in case it comes out.
Dodge Stratus, I hear.
So there's been a rumor about a Dodge Stratus, which I started. If you guys are old SNL fans, you'll know the reference. I don't drive a Dodge Stratus either. I've also posed on X with a number of different cars in parking lots, which are also not mine. So if you want, I'll tell you, but just you guys, what I actually drive. Now I can tell it to you. I have a minivan because I have 5 kids. So
that makes sense.
I'm usually bombing around in a Honda minivan. I have 5 kids, yeah. And
well, you could have gotten a Model X though, right?
I don't know. So the reason I got the Honda Odyssey was because of the Magic Slide seats. This is way too much information, but it enables me to move so you can take the middle seat out, and then you can I have twins that are 4 years old now, but they're still in car seats. So
are their names Eddie and Brian? Are they Ed and Brian? Are their names Ed and Brian?
Yes, yeah. Okay. And they're boy girl, but I named them after you anyway. Awesome. I was like, we gotta stick with it. So Eduarda and Brian. Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. After your great experience with us in college, you're like, I gotta name my kids after those guys.
Exactly.
So I guess Christmas bonuses are coming up, right? And you don't have a Tesla. So Elon, if you're listening, just consider that a Model X would actually, with the 7 seats, would actually fit his family. Dan.
Yeah, but
just
would you drive
that
it?
in mind.
Would you give up those Swift slide seats or whatever you said for Model X if Elon were to give you one?
Yeah, I probably would, or a Cybertruck. Yeah, but I'm always torn. Like the idea of a Cybertruck or a Tesla is fascinating. I would love self-driving car. But I grew up driving stick shift. I learned to drive in New Jersey. So you guys know what the streets of New Jersey are like. Driving on Route 22 or the Turnpike. Like I think we're the most aggressive drivers on the planet.
Stick shift is like the whole other direction from self-driving. It's like I want to add extra work to my drive, so I'm going to get a stick shift.
I think I need both. I need stick shift and I need a Tesla. Or we'll maybe can make a Tesla that has a stick shift feature.
That you just put your hand on the stick and it shifts itself.
Yeah, FSD for stick.
Yeah, we'll have to work on that concept. That's one of those ideas that you don't pitch to Elon.
Yeah, don't do it. I'm warning you there. So according to Grok, which we were talking about, you are the most prominent kettlebell influencer on the entire platform.
Wow.
And considering that X has over 500 million active users, that's really impressive. I mean, even though like only a tiny fraction of human beings actually use kettlebells, it's still impressive. What got you into kettlebells?
Really, it was my story as a dad. So I was living in Boston. I had my second kid at the time. And, if anybody that's had kids probably knows, like the first year after having a kid is just very difficult from a health perspective. You know, you're not sleeping as much. You're likely, because you're not sleeping, you're eating poor, you know, you're not eating as well. You're just getting whatever you can. You don't have time. And so, you know, probably like most dads, you know, you start to develop the dad bod because of that. And I felt like I could do different. I saw people out on the green. If you've been in Boston, they took the main artery, and with the big dig project, they put it underground. So there's this like beautiful greenway. And on the greenway, there were guys doing kettlebells. I'd never seen them before, but I think a bowling ball with a handle just had an aesthetic appeal to me. So I picked one up. It was actually that one right there. So this kettlebell here I've had for over 12 years now. Have you had that one for 12 years now?
About 6.
So,
Okay.
so how did you explain? I see a kettlebell as more of like a mix between a teapot and a dumbbell.
So, I mean, there's a lot of great things about kettlebells. I say, as far as exercise, you should do the thing that you enjoy doing. So if you don't enjoy kettlebells, but you enjoy basketball, like I actually enjoy basketball as well, and that's a daily workout for me. Like, do the thing that's actually going to get you moving, you know, and especially as a busy person, mom, dad, or even just a busy lifestyle, kettlebells are great because within 30 minutes, you can get an amazing workout. I'm actually, let me pitch. I'm actually pretty proud. We have an X community that I started called Kettlebell Life, just like the same name as my handle.
I did join that.
And yeah, it's only like 300 people strong so far. I say only, but like if I had any other group that I started that had 300 people in it actively interested in kettlebells, I would call that amazing. So I think that's a win to begin with.
For sure.
But I'm pretty excited because 2 of the guys that I've seen over the years active in the kettlebell community who actually know what they're doing. I mean, I'm more of an amateur. These guys know what they're doing and have coached people. One of the guys, his name is Coach John. He actually has trained Joe Rogan, you know, with Onnit kettlebells. And another guy, Steve Cotter, was somebody who I learned watching a YouTube video. This was great. He was like at a shipyard. So I don't know if it's like the Navy Yard or whatever, but like there's like, I think battleships behind him. And he's teaching this other guy how to do kettlebell swings with the right technique. And that really appealed to me. And he had a pretty good training method. So like
X,
it's super badass. It's amazing to me though that these guys are in my community. And you know, I've just group chatting with them today. They're like, yeah, we'd love to do a space. Haven't asked me anything about kettlebells. And these guys would be able to answer, you know, people's questions about how to start kettlebells. If you're starting, how not to injure yourself. I'm pretty excited about it.
That's important, like avoiding injury. Like that's something like I've been pretty good about. I've been working out for 20 years or so, and I've been able to mostly avoid injury. And if you get injured, it's such a setback because you can't work out if you're injured. So
yeah, 100%.
I want to avoid.
Ed, are you a fan of Dr. Peter Attia? Have you heard of him?
I haven't even heard of him.
You've probably heard of Dr. Andrew Huberman. They're kind of the same, cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
They're both into longevity, but especially Peter Attia, and he has a concept of I think it's the centenarian decathlon. So the idea is when you're 100 years old, if you can do these 10 things and do them well, then you're going to be a pretty happy person. You know, you'll be able to play with your great grandkids and pick them up. So he's got this whole list. It's definitely worth looking on. But the concept there is similar to not injuring yourself. Is in order for you to do a squat with 30 pounds, right? Like simulating picking up your great grandchild out of a crib and pick them up, you have to be able to be doing that for sure now, but you have to be able to do that with more weight now. So if you're not able to squat and do a goblet squat with about 50 or 70 pounds at this point in our lives in our 40s, like there's no way with our bodies degrading naturally that we're going to be there at 100. So he puts a good blueprint out there for like, here's how to be where you want when you're 100 and how to get there today. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, I definitely want to be there when I'm 100. So going back to dad bots, I remember this photo of Elon Musk. I think it was about a year or so ago on a yacht partying. I think he had a drink in his hand and the media attacked him. Elon Musk is so pale. Elon Musk is so flabby. But since then, I've noticed that it appears as though he's shaped up quite a bit. He's gotten in better shape. Can you confirm if you're his personal trainer?
I can neither confirm nor deny now. I am not his personal trainer. I think he's actually posted videos of, you know, personal training that he's done. I love to see it. Now, first of all, I'd say as far as a yacht picture, if I were as, famous as him, I don't think I would like the aspect of people walking around with cameras, like taking every angle of me to get the
Right.
worst, least flattering image and then posting that on the web and having it go viral. It sounds terrible.
It's not even images anymore. They just take a video and they pick the frame that looks the worst, and then
Exactly. I don't even like opening my phone and having it like to shoot the camera back at you. It's terrible, right? So like
Yeah,
imagine that.
exactly.
So I give him credit. Yeah, but I think the ability for you to perform your best, for somebody like him who's doing all these different ventures, for you to have your mind in the state to perform its best, I think body and mind is an important connection.
yeah, absolutely. So you're into working out, you're into health. Like, what's a quick rundown, like a 2-minute rundown of your health and fitness routine?
Yeah. So, and I'll go back to Dr. Andrew Huberman. He's been a big influence. And I'll say just some fundamental things that I've changed in my life in the last 10 years, which have been helpful. And I think they're helpful to anybody. I would say, especially for dads who just had kids, but really for anybody, this is like evergreen advice. One is don't do alcohol, like cut the alcohol out. Since I've cut alcohol out, I sleep better. Like, and sleep is fundamental. So if you're sleeping poorly, everything else is going to fall to pieces.
Yeah.
So emphasize quality sleep. I know for somebody that just had kids, 8 hours may not be ideal, but if you're only getting 6 hours, they better be high quality hours. So cut alcohol out. It severely affects your sleep. It also, I found, led to inflammation and other things, which I wasn't even aware of it happening at the time until I quit it. And I was never an alcoholic. I was a raging alcoholic, but, even as Andrew Huberman says, 2 drinks a week is enough to, be a regular drinker and have some of the bad effects of it. So that's number one. So good sleep, no alcohol. You see me drinking coffee. I love coffee. I have an AeroPress in the background somewhere, I think.
Above your kettlebell, I see it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the kettle and the kettlebell. But yeah, like stop drinking coffee after noon or 2 is important to me. 2 at the very latest, because alcohol, the half-life is like 6 to 8 hours, so it stays in your system. So making sure that you're
Caffeine. You mean caffeine, right?
Yeah, correct. Caffeine.
You're not drinking alcoholic caffeine coffee, are
Oh,
you?
did I misspeak and say this is alcohol?
Yeah.
No, this is caffeinated coffee. Yeah,
Everybody understood.
Awesome. Stop drinking coffee after 2. As far as like what I do, I try to do, I like to say, a minimal viable product, an MVP, for workouts. So it's great to get an hour workout. I love it when I can. My life doesn't always support that, but I know I can get a 15-minute workout in every day. And sometimes, like, you want to optimize. This is now James Clear, if you've read him, like Atomic Habits. You want to optimize for days that you're the busiest and that you have the least motivation, not for days when you have an hour and a lot of motivation. So, like, think about your worst day. You're a little sick, you're one down, you got to run the kids around, you have 15 minutes. What is something that you definitely can do? And for me, that's 50 kettlebell swings, 25 goblet squats, 10 chin-ups, quick run around the block, and some crunches. Like, that takes about 15 minutes. And if I know that I'm going to do that every single day, no matter what, then it's not this ominous thing like, I have to get to the gym, I have to get this routine down, I have to spend all this time, I have to take a shower afterwards. Like, it's just 15 minutes, crank it out, get back to my work, get back to my busy life.
I witnessed that firsthand in a lot of X spaces with you. You'd talk and you'd be out of breath. And I realized you're doing like kettlebell swings while you're listening to these spaces. And I caught you off guard and I like asked you a question or something. But I do the same thing. And I'd listen at the gym sometimes. And then I'm called on and there's like all these people around. I'm wearing my AirPods and like have to talk and everybody's staring at me like, what is he talking about?
Yeah.
Why is he talking about Donald Trump in the middle of the gym to himself? But yeah, no, yeah, I think time is everything.
Funny story, right before this call, I saw the FCC commissioner was on a space. So I joined it.
Kinsler. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. So he was talking about, freedom of speech and Starlink and, a number of other interesting topics. But I got on, I was doing a kettlebell workout because I had 15 minutes before our call and I was tuning in just to hear it. And it was like questions for the audience. So of course I hit the speaker button and they let me up. And so now I'm asking the FCC commissioner a question about X out of breath, saying that I'm doing kettlebell swing. So yeah, I'm not a good multitasker. Maybe you're better at it, Brian, than I am.
No, I'm bad at it
No,
too.
I'm not.
I was there. I was at the gym the other day, and I was in a space. I had my earbuds in, and somebody asked me about Donald Trump's new mugshot NFTs. So I was like, they're talking about Donald Trump mugshot NFTs. These people are like, what the hell is this guy talking about? So I'm like trying to get as far away from people as I can, like go in a corner somewhere so I could finish my conversation. So I'm not very good at multitasking, and I get like very flustered when there's people around like eavesdropping on me.
Same. It must be like a Rutgers training thing.
Must be. All right. So the final part of our show, which we do with all of our guests, is I'm going to give you two different options, and you have to pick one or the other.
Truth or dare?
Okay. So number one, you have to consume one of these for 5 days, and this is all you eat for 5 days: prune juice or kale.
I'm going to go with kale. And I'd say the reasoning is prune juice. I don't love the taste of prune juice, and it sounds particularly bad after 5 days.
But high in iron, at least you're
Yeah.
gonna have a lot of iron for your kettlebells.
Yeah, and kale also, you can do different things with it. Like prune juice, you can't really cook it. I guess you could boil it. But kale, you can make it to kale chips. You could have a little salad. I don't know. I guess you could
Variety.
I have 2 rabbits, so I could be bonding with my bunnies.
That's a good point. I'd like your answer. I think that's a correct answer.
So you have to go to dinner with either Jack Dorsey or Elon Musk and talk with them for 2 hours. Who would it be?
I mean, I would definitely pick Elon at this point. But it's interesting that Jack started following me on X. And so yeah, I mean, I feel like either one, I would feel like I'm living in a simulation, but I already feel like I'm living in a simulation because Elon and Jack follow me and I'm working for X. Like that's the kind of thing you wake up, you're like, oh, that was a weird dream.
Well, here's a secret.
Quick follow-up. Do you think you're living in a simulation?
So I actually went on a bit of a simulation posting rant the other day, so you can read a little bit about it.
Did you?
I'm obsessed with the idea of simulations. I don't think that like there's a soloptic simulation where you're in your own little space and everything is made up around you. I reject nihilism, so I don't believe that like I'm just the only person in the simulation and you guys are fake NPCs. I don't like that idea.
Well, it doesn't have to.
I'm not fake.
I love reading about simulation theory too, and I think if we're in a simulation, it's mostly not NPCs. I think either everybody and every creature is some sort of player in another realm somewhere, or we're not in a simulation.
I mean, I think that's pretty cool. There's the Rick and Morty, like multiple layers of simulation. So I hope if we're in a simulation, then we're just one layer down from the base layer, not like 12 down.
But
so
the likelihood is we are more than one if we're in a simulation.
Unfortunately, the math is against us. That's for sure. No, but I said if I were the director of a simulation, I'd probably make really obnoxious NPCs that go around telling people they're in a simulation so that you'd be like, oh, I don't believe that. And everyone would just stay in their happy little world.
That's a good point.
You're in a simulation, just so you know.
Oh, I see what you did. No, I in my post or in the post, I said like, oh, wait a second, ... So yeah, I had the same thought. Maybe I'm the NPC.
Okay, so this is going to be difficult for you, or maybe it won't be very difficult for you. So you have the choice of no kettlebells for life, but you get $1 million, or you get no cash, but you have unlimited kettlebells for life.
I'm going to stick on brand and say no cash and kettlebells for life, because
I thought you would say that.
Yeah, because if money is your biggest problem, then you don't have problems. And I just think that money doesn't solve a lot. I mean, go talk to Elon. I don't think he's like necessarily happier because he has, 100 whatever billion dollars. But the kettlebells make me happy. So
Elon needs less money and more kettlebells in his life.
I'm sure he could buy.
You should go to Elon with that idea, because it's a good one.
What, just give up all your money and buy kettlebells with it? Like,
just say, give the Krassensteins all your money and then just go buy kettlebells.
But
yeah, I'll even buy him a kettlebell.
Yeah, you guys would have to supply the kettlebells then if he
That's
gave you
deal.
Yeah, I think we could arrange that. Yeah.
All right, so this one might, I hope it doesn't get you fired, but you have to answer this.
Okay.
Facebook or TikTok?
Facebook or TikTok? Saying TikTok is going to get me fired, won't it? So I won't say that. But if I were to say it, that might have been my answer.
Okay.
Yeah, because I feel like even though it's run by the Chinese government, I feel like Facebook is, I heard it described, and I can never unhear it, as the awkward family reunion you just can't leave. And I would like to leave that. So
That's true.
like, I actually still have a Facebook account just because some of my family, that's the only platform they use, and they post pictures there. So I'll go look at those pictures. Aside from that, I like to avoid the whole thing.
So
TikTok is very toxic, but
I just want to let Alex Jones know this is confirmation that Dan is working for the Chinese government.
you heard it here, folks. No,
Okay, fine.
I
No,
don't,
go
I
ahead.
don't, hey, I want to clear the air. I don't love TikTok either. I mean, to me, it's like, I don't think it's creating a healthier culture for Americans. Let's put it that way. As
Yeah.
an American, I think more X and less of either one of those things.
You
Thumbs
know,
up.
Facebook, I dislike it, but I'm still like stuck on there because I've been posting my like family photos on there as kind of my family photo album for the last 15 years. So if I get rid of my account, I'm getting rid of all that stuff. So I can't do it. So I'm kind of stuck there, but I definitely prefer X. I don't use TikTok. The only thing I use TikTok for is to find content to post on X once in a while.
Because it's the worst content, right?
Exactly. All right. So the final question, and this is probably the most important one: Ed Krassenstein or Brian Krassenstein?
So I'm a numbers guy, and I noticed that Ed has over 1 million followers,
That's right.
and Brian doesn't. So I'm not saying Ed over Brian just because of the count, but I'm actually curious, like what are you doing, Ed, that
So
Brian?
you don't know the whole Justin Bieber story?
No, so Justin Bieber got you to 1 million?
No. So my account used to be like we were running this fan club website, and we had various fan club Twitter handles. My account was a Justin Bieber fan club, like back in 2000, I don't know, 2010 or something. I think it was 2010. And Brian was the Jonas Brothers, right? So we would post content, and then we're like, okay, this idea is not working out. So we renamed our accounts. It was to like impeach Donald Trump and Donald Trump exposed. And then we eventually renamed them to our own names. But during that time period when we had these fan club accounts, and for the record, I'm not a Justin Bieber fan, and I don't think Brian's a Jonas Brothers fan, but it was kind of like this business thing we
We're
were doing.
steel manning.
Yeah. But my Justin Bieber account, for some reason, I don't know, people thought it was really Justin Bieber. It was clearly labeled Justin Bieber Unofficial Fan Club, but I think people saw the picture and it got like 200,000 followers from posting, like maybe making like 25 tweets over the course of like 2 years.
The power of the voice.
Yeah,
so that's an impressive arc that you guys have led on Twitter then to X.
Yeah, and that's why we were actually suspended from Twitter back in the day, is because they thought we bought their accounts from somebody else who had Justin Bieber and Jonas Brother fan clubs. But we actually had the original emails showing that we created them. So it's an interesting story, and now I'm sure everybody's gonna be mocking us for it, but
I'm glad you're back. And you guys let me off the hook on that question, but I'll circle back to it. I have to say, I try to support the people that support kettlebells. And clearly Brian came on in support, although maybe somewhat mockingly, in support of kettlebells, and did a video on that.
I'm not mocking it.
It brought awareness to kettlebells. And Ed, I think you were clear on your hatred for kettlebells. So I'm gonna
ridiculous. Like, so we've had how many, like 5 or 6 guests, probably 6 guests on our show so far, and every single one has picked Brian so far. Vivek, who else?
Rokana, Ashley St. Clair. Yeah,
everybody. Everybody
likes me
Brian,
more.
So
and they back into it with different reasons, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's always a super lame reason, like, oh, Brian likes kettlebells or something like that.
It was a good reason, Dan.
I have twins. I have boy girls. I could never pick between twins. So maybe I'll just say it's a tie.
No, you already said it. Your answer is already
Well,
already
I
talented.
thought you were gonna pick me because you're talking about the number of followers. I'm like, oh yes, I finally got one. And then
Did you see where I led you on and had you
yeah,
eating
messed
and then
up. It's really
squashed all your
messed up.
hopes?
All
Well,
right. Well,
thanks again, Dan. It's been great. It I love reading your posts. They're humorous. It gets engagement. You're definitely an ex all-star. And hopefully we can do this again.
you
Sounds
follow
good.
Dan it's at KettlebellDan, right? At
No,
KettlebellDan.
no, I'm tempted to change it to that because
It's
everyone
not that.
just Kettlebell Dan, and
Kettlebell Life.
it's Kettlebell Life. So, do you think I should change it to Kettlebell Dan because everyone thinks it's that anyway?
I do. I
Yeah.
personally do. Just watch out you don't get banned because Twitter might think you're buying your account from someone else when you do that.
I think I know a guy, but
Okay.
yeah.
All
All
right.
right,
Yeah,
I'm gonna change it.
definitely
You guys
change it.
convinced me. You pushed me over the edge. I'll change it to Kettlebell Dan and follow either one of those. How about that?
Man, our
Sounds good.
influence is just so strong. Amazing.
All right.
All right,
Thanks again, Dan.
should we end in a rousing chorus of on the banks of the old Raritan?
Yeah. I don't
I
remember
must
it.
admit I don't remember this song. It's been
I
almost
remember oorah, oorah,
Rutgers,
Rutgers.
Red Stream,
Yeah,
upstream, upstream, red stream.
upstream. Yeah.
All right,
See you,
guys.
Dan.
Been a pleasure.
Thanks again. Wait, where's record? Mikey, why don't I see end recording? Crap.
It says it's recording.
Where's record?
I can record, it says.
Oh, here, I stop it up here.